Welcome to Maritime Pakistan, your gateway to the fascinating world of oceans and the opportunities they present to every one of us. Our goal is to explore the shared heritage of the seas and oceans to achieve global prosperity. Today's discussion explores the book The Sea in History, The Ancient World, and we're going to be focusing on the 8th chapter, which is all about the sea and early societies in the Japanese islands.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We're going to explore how the ocean, not just the land, really forged the identity of early Japan. Now, you look at a map like this, and you see this long chain of islands. But what this picture doesn't show you is that these islands are incredibly mountainous, covered in thick forests. So trying to travel by land, that was a serious challenge. And because it was so tough to get around on foot, for most of Japan's history, the sea was the main highway. It's how you got from A to B. This really creates two different stories of Japan, running side by side. We usually hear the land-based story, the one about race farming and emperors. But there's this whole other narrative, the story of the sea people, the kaimin, who literally lived their lives from the ocean. So, first things first, how did these early societies even survive? Well, the answer, of course, is the sea. Let's take a look at how the ocean acted as this just massive, reliable pantry. And this relationship with the sea, it goes back, an unbelievably long way. We're talking about some of the earliest evidence of seafaring anywhere in the world. 30,000 years ago, people were already making sea voyages to get valuable resources like obsidian. Then, 15,000 years ago, they're using the world's very first pottery. And what for? To cook seafood. This connection is it's fundamental to Japanese culture. This long history meant they developed a really sophisticated understanding of the ocean. Their diet was incredibly diverse, everything from deep-sea tuna to seals and shellfish. And get this, they even figured out how to make salt from seawater using special pottery. That was a huge technological leap, and it happened thousands of years before farming really took hold. We actually have accounts from outsiders that give us this really vivid picture. This Chinese record from the 3rd century describes the Wa water people, who were probably the specialist divers we now know as the Ama. It's just a fantastic little glimpse into this very specialized way of life. And all that diving, well, it wasn't just about finding dinner. Certain types of shells were incredibly valuable. They became a kind of currency and a really powerful symbol of a person's status and wealth. This trade in shells ended up creating these huge prehistoric networks that connected the entire archipelago, all thanks to the sea. You had elites in Kyushu, for example, wearing these fancy bracelets made from conch shells that had to be transported all the way from Okinawa. This wasn't some little local economy. This was a vast, interconnected maritime world. Right, so the sea wasn't just a place to get food. It was also this massive highway connecting communities and totally shaping how the islands were settled in the first place. And the key to this whole highway system was, you guessed it, the boat. The technology slowly got better, moving from simple dugout canoes to more complex designs. But what's really wild is that these were mostly oar-powered. Just try to imagine the skill and the sheer human effort it took to make these long, open ocean voyages with just oars. Living so close to the sea also meant you had to understand its dangers. And here's something that is just incredible. After the horrific 2011 tsunami, archaeologists discovered that ancient Jomon coastal sites were almost all built on high ground, just out of reach of even that massive wave. That shows a deep, generational knowledge of the ocean's power. The maritime skills these early people had were truly exceptional. Usually in prehistory, it's farmers who have the resources to go and settle remote islands. But here in the Ryukyu Islands, it was hunter-gatherers who made the journey across the open ocean. That's a fascinating exception to the rule, and it just shows how advanced their seafaring really was. And here, you see the two faces of the sea perfectly. For the northern Ryukyus, the sea was a bridge connecting them back to the main islands. But for the southern islands, a 250-kilometer gap of open water was an impossible barrier. This led to 3,000 years of almost complete isolation. So, as societies got bigger and more complex, the sea naturally changed. It went from being the shared resource that everyone used to a strategic battlefield, a space that you had to control. Early states and chiefdoms basically followed a 4-step playbook for turning control of the sea into political power. Step 1. Control the trade of cool exotic stuff, like bronze mirrors from the continent. Step 2. Hand those goods out to build alliances. Step 3. Use that power to take military control of the sea lanes. And finally, Step 4. Lock it all down with sacred rituals. And this wasn't just a theory. In the 520s AD, it led to straight-up war. The Iwai War was a huge conflict fought for one reason: to decide who would control the very profitable sea lanes to Korea. But controlling the sea wasn't just about fighting. It had this intense spiritual side too. That same Chinese chronicle describes this unbelievable high-stakes ritual for a safe voyage. One person was basically a spiritual scapegoat. If the trip went well, they got rewarded. But if anything bad happened, they were killed. It's a pretty shocking example of the extreme lengths they went to try and control the uncontrollable. So yeah, ritual control was every bit as important as military control. And a lot of it was centered on sacred places, like the island of Okinoshima. This island is right in the middle of a dangerous strait, and for centuries, voyagers left offerings there for safe passage. Archaeologists have found about 80,000 precious artifacts, swords, mirrors, jewelry, all left behind to please the powerful gods of the sea. Okay, so what does all of this add up to? What does it mean for Japan's unique place in world history? Let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. Think about it this way. You've got the British Isles on the other end of Eurasia. They were invaded and conquered over and over again. But Japan? Never conquered by an outside force. Why the difference? The sea. It acted as just enough of a barrier so that while new people and new ideas were always arriving, Japan often got to choose when and how it would engage with the rest of the world. And this really brings us to the core idea of this whole story. For Japan, the sea has always created this fundamental tension. On one hand, it's a barrier that allows for these periods of incredible cultural isolation. But on the other hand, it's an unavoidable highway, always bringing new people, new technologies, and new conflicts right to its shores. This constant push and pull, this dance between opening up and closing off, you could argue it's the single most defining feature of Japan's entire history. It's a legacy of the sea that isn't just ancient history. You can still see its echoes today. We hope that you liked today's video. Please share your comments and subscribe to explore other similar opportunities. Post your questions in the comments section for future videos.